Georgios Boudalis, as Peter mentioned, came to us first as a research fellow and then returned as a visiting professor, and as I have to express it this way, won our hearts, and with his passionate engagement with books as things. And this is something that I think he has made so vivid in the work that he has done here for his students, for all of us within the institution, and now more broadly for all of you and everyone who will come to see the exhibition in number 18 down the street. Georgios is the head of the Book and Paper Conservation Laboratory at the Museum of Byzantine Culture in Thessaloniki, in Greece. In 2005, he completed his PhD at the University of the Arts in London on the evolution of the Byzantine bookbinding tradition from the end of the Byzantine Empire until the early 18th century. And as I mentioned before, in spring 2015, he was a research fellow here and returned as a visiting professor in the fall of 2016. So this is someone who knows us now. We know him, and we're only too glad to be able to welcome him to the podium this afternoon. Georgios Boudalis.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for the nice words. I have many reasons to be excited tonight. I'm not going to mention all of them. This has been a very long process, a very exciting process. But I think the story I'm trying to tell, we are trying to tell in the exhibition, and the story you will be listening about today in this symposium, I think starts 1998 with my first visit in the St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai, in the desert. And the many months we spent, me and several colleagues, some of which I'm very happy to see among you, the many months we spent since then and until 2007 doing a very detailed, a very joyful survey of the whole manuscript collection of the library. And I don't know how many of you had the opportunity and the blessing really to visit the library, but that's an astonishing place, both as a place, as an environment, but the collection is beyond words, especially for people like me who have a great love for books, really. So questions started being asked there. And then it wasn't until 2011, I think, that there was this very interesting, very stimulating conference in Cambridge about texts and textiles. And I said, wow, that's interesting. Well, let's try and submit a paper there. So I had the courage to submit a title for a paper which I hadn't started researching at the time. And so I submitted a paper called the predecessor, the bookbinding as a craft, I think, or something like that. Anyway, it was about the sewing of the book and where does that sewing comes from. The funny thing is that, as I said, I didn't know what was the answer to that paper, to that title I had submitted, but I nevertheless did. I was accepted, of course, because the title was stimulating and it fitted perfectly to the concept of the conference. So I started eagerly and rather nervously looking for my paper and searching for that. So it was one of the best moments for this long research, because I started without knowing where that research would lead me, and things came bit by bit, leading me to something quite unexpected, and that was shocks, I'm afraid, and you will hear more about that later on. So that was the start of it, and then once you realize that very bizarre connections can be made between books and all different things, that was the key to unlock a whole series of connections. And this is what happened from 2015, been lucky enough to have a scholarship at Bard Graduate Center among these wonderful people, very open-minded way of thinking about crafts and about things. So I spent four very extremely productive months in New York. One of those months was in the Morgan Library, every morning there, looking at the Coptic collection of the Morgan Library. And then, thanks to Peter's idea, I was back in 2016 to teach a course for the students here, 6 wonderful students. And then start the curation of this exhibition, which is now possible to view in the other building. So Peter already thanked the full of the Focus Gallery team. I needed to do that again, I'm afraid, because we, I mean, there is a name in this exhibition of the curator, but this is definitely, obviously, I hope you do understand that, it's a team effort and it's a team project. So definitely, Peter, thank you for your idea. Ivan, thank you for being the head of the Focus project. Nina Stritzler-Levin, thank you again. Marianne and Caroline, you've been extremely helpful. I mean, we spent, I think, you are the two persons with which I exchanged the greatest number of emails in the last 2 years. And then Kate DeWitt, absolutely, for the stunning layout of the catalog. It's been a wonderful book. And of course, Daniel Lee for the long hours, for the director of publishing, for the long hours about the editing of the book. Of course, the copy editor, Caroline Brown, and the proofreader, of course, Christine Geber, who made my very poor English to be possible to read, really. And then, of course, Alexis Mucha for the manager of rights and reproductions for all the work related with the copyrights and the many photographs we have included in the catalog. Jesse Merandi, of course, for the digital interactive component of the exhibition, which I think complements very well with the exhibition, helps a lot for understanding quite a few of these bizarre techniques we're talking about, as well as for editing the film that you will be able to see next to the exhibition. And of course, Emily Rayleigh, the director of public programs. Last but not least, of course, Jeremy Johnston, who has designed the exhibition space. And then definitely a couple of colleagues, Ursula Mitra, who has provided support in all different ways, among which are two beautiful, wonderful, actually, replicas, which are in the exhibition space, and I'm sure you will all see. And then, of course, definitely the lenders. First of all, the Morgan Library, extremely generous. There would be no exhibition like that without the loans from the Morgan. Definitely the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Arts, the Brooklyn Museum, the Yale University Art Gallery, who gave us two extremely important and rare fragments. They are small fabric fragments, but they're extremely important for the rationale of the exhibition. And the Penn Museum, and of course the American Museum of Natural History. And I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. Of course, I shouldn't forget to thank the two anonymous reviewers to the catalog. The catalog has been a very one of the most difficult part of this whole project. So everyone involved with the catalog requires special thanks from me. And in fact, the anonymous reviewers, the two anonymous reviewers were extremely helpful for making very important comments in order to improve the content of the catalog. So thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of the talks. Thank you again.